Hello, everyone. This is a short interview with Professor Renette Blignaut, and she is the first person that we will interview in a range of possible interviews with um, some of our great legends in the statistics community in South Africa. My name is Stefan van der Westhuizen, and I'm the newsletter editor for SASA, and I am arranging a few interviews with people in the statistics community. So it's a great pleasure to introduce Professor Renette Blignaut, who is a highly respected figure in the South African statistical and data science community. Professor Blignaut is a professor of statistics at UWC. She received a master's at UCT, a PhD from the University of Pretoria, and she's now currently at UWC. She has received the prestigious Thought Leader Award from SASA in 2021, and also noteworthy, earlier this year, she was awarded as one of 8 people in the world, the 2025 SAS Educator Award in a function in Orlando in the USA. Her research spans diverse and timely topics such as cybersecurity, AI, bias statistics, and science education. She has published many articles, delivered many presentations at conferences, has workshops worldwide, and supervised many postgraduate students. She's also deeply committed to community engagement and outreach, and under her leadership, UWC's data science program has grown significantly in visibility and impact, for which it received the UWC Community Engagement Excellence Award in 2023. I think we can learn a lot about stats and learn a lot about from Professor Blignaut. So please join me in welcoming Professor Renette to this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Renette, you have such an extensive and inspiring career in statistics and data science. It's really impressive. What was it that initially drew you to the field of statistics?
Well, my journey into statistics was entirely unplanned. I had originally received a bursary to become a mathematics teacher and was even considering studying medicine at the time. But the bursary that I received felt like a sign that I should pursue the mathematics teaching path. When I enrolled, of course, I needed to select subjects. And I looked at psychology and I thought that might be interesting. And because I was in the BC program, I had to do mathematical statistics as a prerequisite for psychology. But in the end, I majored in mathematical statistics and mathematics with minors in computer science and psychology. I never became a maths teacher, but instead joined the Medical Research Council, who kindly agreed to take over my bursary obligations. I had offers from Old Mutual and Sanlam and also the MRC, but the fascinating work at the MRC stood out. And you know, the deciding factor was actually they offered me an office, whereas at the other places I had a shared open plan space.
So it was the deciding factor was the fact actually that you got your own office. Fantastic. I think it's kind of interesting, like a lot of people when they start studying are not maybe aware of what stats is and what stats can do. And it's after studying maybe something else that they become more aware of statistics. But now looking back at your time at the MRC, how did that influence your transition from academic training to real-world statistical problem? And what was your motivation to come to academia?
Okay, well, during my time at the MRC, I was fortunate because I had outstanding mentors. And working in the MRC environment, you have many dedicated researchers, and they inspired me to pursue my further studies and also to expand my skills. I completed my honors degree at the University of Pretoria, taking the advantage of the evening classes. So my days were very long. My work at the MRC started at 7 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And then I had lectures from 5 to 7 and computer practicals following the lectures. So you can imagine how long those days were. But luckily, it was just 1 year in which I completed all the coursework. And it was ultimately Professor Danel Kotze who encouraged me to transition into academia, leading me to join the University of the Western Cape in 1992.
Yeah, so I think everybody would agree that where they end up, that people above us and seniors and mentors are so crucial to guide us to where we need to go. And I really hope, especially the young people and students today, they find that position where they can be mentored. And even if it's in a company, in the industry, maybe not in academia, that you should place yourself in an environment where growth opportunities is provided and where people can encourage you. And if not, I would recommend, I think you also would recommend people maybe to change or adapt or find that growth, that productive environment where they can be.
Yeah, that's very important. I think I normally say to students, because I follow up on their careers, and I say to them, if you're not learning anymore, move to the next place, because you need to continuously, learn and hone in on new skills. So that's very important.
I have a bit of a controversial question. Now that, because you've been in industry and then you came to academia, I was also in industry for a few years before I came to academia. Do you think it's important for lecturers to get some industry experience or to have, some idea of how things work in industry before they come to academia full time?
I think it has an advantage. It depends, I suppose, on which industry you're talking about. That can also have influence. You can be in an industry where you're not learning much, it's not geared towards what you studied. I mean, then it might not be so important. But I think it does give you a slightly different perspective if you have spent some time in industry. So I think I would encourage students to actually spend some time in industry. But I know it is controversial, and many people just transition into academia, which is also fine. But
okay, so you had strong mentors in your career, and now you also are the mentor. What core values or philosophies do you think guide you to mentor now your students and maybe your colleagues around you?
I think, to me, I've always liked helping people. I think that's sort of part of my nature. So I was guided and helped by many leaders that I studied under and also that were part of my working environment. So I think what I've learned from them, I was also able to transform into what I'm trying to do in my current role and in my current career, and that is to support and mentor younger staff, because they are the future of the field of statistics, and I think it's important to do that. And being an academic, you're always busy with forming people's careers and forming them for their future, and I think that is why I like the mentorship role, because you feel you're giving back what other people actually invested in you.
That's true. I think that's a very rewarding part of being a lecturer. That is, we don't have to search hard in our job environment to find that human connection or the human that passion to help people. It's naturally part of what we do every day, whether it's undergraduate students or postgraduate students or even peers. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about my position, is that that opportunity to mean something to someone. So you have supervised many postgraduate students. Is there something that you find very rewarding with supervision? What is the appeal to you with that?
Yes, well, supervising students is part of our job, but it's a very nice part of the job, because I think you learn alongside the students, because it's very seldom that you know everything. And especially in our field, we are learning new things every day. And that is wonderful while you supervise students, that you are actually also expanding on your knowledge and learning with a student. And I think that's what's very rewarding. And especially in the UWC environment, what I find very rewarding is that I actually work with students, in many cases, first generation students, and giving them the skills to go into a workplace where they can now become earners and help their families, and moving maybe into a higher socioeconomic status.
Yeah, on your first one, I agree. It's generally supervising students, it makes your job easier in terms of keeping up, especially I think in a field in statistics. I mean, all environments, all fields grow quite fast today, but I think especially our field, it's immensely difficult to keep up with what's being out, the major breakthroughs. And one part of supervising, your students get to play with all the new technologies and you learn through that. But then what you also said with I think it's really fantastic what you guys are doing at the UWC with the data science program. It's very inspiring. So how do you ensure that the curriculum and research training remain relevant in such a fast changing field, specifically now in the data science program?
Yes, I think, with our data science program, which has sort of a training part that is in industry, that really helps us to stay relevant, and also to know what is new and what is the latest that is needed in the workplace. So I think that is extremely important. So for me, it's one of the major milestones of my career when we introduced this collaborative master's program with the BNI Center at Northwest University, because it helped us to reshape what we are offering our students and to strengthen our focus, to make sure we are equipping the students with the skills needed for the workplace. The industry projects are very valuable. They're rich learning experiences for our students because it's the first time that they're in an office, and at the same time, it helps us as academics to sharpen our skills and to stay relevant in what we teach. So that's very important. So I think that has been, and I'm also talking for my colleagues as well. I think we had a meeting earlier today, and we also said, we never stop learning. Every project that we work with the students in industry is really challenging, but interesting. And we can just continue learning with the students alongside them.
I think it's becoming more and more crucial that when students exit university, that they should have, so we teach them all the theoretical, all the ideas, but to have that hands-on experience when they exit and they enter the labor force, I think that's becoming a very essential part. So at Stellenbosch, we have, for example, a data science project in the 4th year. This is for the Big Data program, where they work on relevant data, and they also get the opportunity to work with companies. It's, I think, I'm not sure if all departments have something like this, but I want to commend UWC for doing this. The reason I'm bringing this up because I've recently read a lot about that there's a forecast that unemployment, especially with new graduates, is on the increase because of AI. Because AI can do a lot of these new, there's typical jobs that new graduates have to do, the mundane, the repetitive work, and preparing them to, giving them that edge to be equipped with the additional skills to be valuable in the workforce is very, very needed. And I think the statistical community should really take notice of this. And I think you guys are leading quite a good example there.
I think it's important to also know that not only to develop, of course, the technical skills and the knowledge is crucial, and then that's the basis of the training. but also the soft skill development. So that is something that we find, especially in science students, is, to convey this, to tell the story. First of all, to listen to what the problem is, and then in the end to solve the problem, but also to tell the story of the data in a way that other people can understand that. So that is the skills that we also develop in the program. So it's not only the hardcore theoretical skills, it's also the soft skills.
Yeah, and I mean, soft skills doesn't have to come. So you don't have to think about, okay, now I should bring in a module where I teach, communication skills. I mean, these things are learned as you go through a project like this. So it's really a win-win. I'm just recalling now, I remember my first position at the workplace in industry. It was within the first week, and I was given a data set, and I was told, you need to prepare a small presentation. At the presentation, the CEO, the chief technical officer, the technological officer, all the senior people was going to be there, and they wanted some insights from this data set. I was traumatized because I was prepared to do the analysis and, to say that recipe of, now I reject the null hypothesis because blah, 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 blah. But I was not prepared, to be in that position of, taking ownership of the project and now presenting this. But I guess it comes with, experience. But so yeah. Renette, I also want to talk to you about the community and industry engagement that you have at UWC. For example, the initiative like the Divas and Dudes in Data Science, very innovative. What inspired these outreaches, and what can you tell us about it?
Yes, I must say, in this case, we were inspired by our international collaboration when we visited the SASA conference in Dallas. And there I met people who were part of Women in Analytics. And that was at that point that we decided that maybe we can also do a Women in Analytics program in South Africa. And that's when we started with that. And it was sort of to inform especially young girls in the higher part of the high school about the field of analytics and data science, and also to encourage them to think of data science as a career option. But then we had people saying, but why are you just focusing on girls? The boys must also know. So then we started with the Divas and Dudes in Data Science. And we've done this now for school outreach for the last couple of years. Our next session is on the 15th of August, where we actually introduce high school learners to data science concepts, but in a fun and engaging way. So we have prizes, and we have people from industry talking. We have ex-students talking of their career choice and how they decided on this career. So, and a very interactive session where the learners can then also ask questions. So we found that very interesting. And we also attracting students to come to UWC, and of course, to be prepared. We want students to make sure that they are taking mathematics and not mathematics literacy at school, so that they are prepared for university and to then enroll for data science. So we do it as data science general. I mean, whether they enroll at UWC or at Stellenbosch or at UCT, it doesn't matter. We need more people in the field. So that is what we try to do. And it's been very successful. Will continue to do that.
I really like that idea. It's because also as a lecturer, we are evaluated on these three main pillars, right? So research, teaching, and community engagement. And I think across South Africa, I think this community engagement thing is being pressured more and more and more on lecturers. And I mean, I don't have much of a community engagement yet. So for others out there who might be listening, practically, like maybe just very briefly, how would one start something like this or go about it, or any hints that you might give?
Well, we are willing, or I'm willing to help anybody who would like to start something like this. It is important to work with university structures because they're the people, or the outreach structures at the universities working with schools, because they would be the people who would give you the contact information, or they would be able to send out the information to the various schools. So you have to work within your university structures. It's also good to find funding for prizes. So that is also important to have some sponsors, but that is not a major problem. And normally one gets a few lucky draw prizes quite easily. And then, of course, you need staff and students and ex-students to be involved to also speak to the audience.
I want to also quickly talk to you about, so you've done some research on, for example, cybersecurity behavior and the use of large language models in education, especially now since 2023, LLMs are becoming much more widely known. But from your point of view and your experience, how do you see, for example, like ChatGPT and so on, how do you think this is evolving in academia, teaching, research? Well, let's start narrow. That's maybe a very wide, but or research-wise, how do you see this evolving?
Well, I think it's going to evolve quite quickly. We did some initial research, and that was just when everything started in 2022, and we started asking globally. We have quite a few researchers working in different parts of the world, and we asked academics, what are they using large language models for, ChatGPT or whatever they were using. And it was sort of the start where people were saying they were starting to look at it for their education as well as for research. So it was supporting the learning and the research. It was quite interesting to see at that point, we looked at different age groups and to see who was using what. But yeah, but it's evolved so quickly that I think whatever we did in the research at that point is now sort of null and void. But I think the LLMs has the potential to transform education by making learning more accessible and adaptive to individual needs. But we also need to know that we have to use all of these technologies very ethically and also efficiently. We are also seeing that this has been used in industry. So many of the industries are already using a lot of the AI in their various work processes. So it's not something that we can say to students, you can't use. They will use it. And they have to know how to use it ethically and also efficiently. So we need to, I think we're all learning, and it's something that we will be making up new rules, I suppose, as we go along, and how to use it and how to use it productively. So yeah, it's an interesting field to work in at the moment and to do research in, but it's changing literally daily. So yeah, so I don't think people should think they know it all. Every day or every week that you actually look at various new AI technologies, you'll see there's something new. And what I have seen with the research that we've done, just as you think you now know how this technology works, then you get a little pop-up on the screen to say, oh, you now have to pay for this. So I think that is something that we would have to look at in future, where you can't enroll and pay for all the different AI tools. One would have to find tools that are suitable for your working environment and then invest in those. But sometimes I feel I'm running next to this AI train and it's just going faster and faster, but we will have to see how we use it, and especially the ethical use of these tools.
Definitely the research around LLMs, and I've recently saw a few research articles, not necessarily the stats behind LLMs and ChatGPT, but there's this growing literature now about how ChatGPT is being used, the effects of ChatGPT in the work areas, or I even read this article lately about someone who was on the spectrum and how ChatGPT, led this person to believe in something that wasn't actually true. And when ChatGPT was cornered about it, it acknowledged that it was playing this role for that person. So it should definitely be used ethically, and it's definitely, like you said, that analogy of the train. And I think in South Africa, or in where we don't have that capacity and funding, like first world universities, they have big, massive teams, dozens of postdocs and PhDs working on problems. It's hard for us to be in this kind of research just because of how fast things are going. But how would you say, if someone, because now you've worked a little bit in this and you've done some research in this, but if someone is trying to get into this type of research, is there, like, what advice could you give someone entering this, whether it's applied or maybe theoretical research?
Yeah, I think in the applied side, one would need to have some problem that you're trying to solve, or you might have somebody asking you, how can one use this in your environment? So a colleague of mine, we were recently asked to look at research specifically in the medical environment, how AI is used in various fields and where it's used. So that is when we started looking at, what is available. And I think it's huge. The fields are huge, and you get sort of an overload of what is AI being used, but you have to work through the information to really find the practical use for that specific domain. So I would think if it's in the practical sense, you would need to look at, what are you specifically looking for and how it can help. But I think what I've seen in the predictive modeling space, where you now use LLMs as part of your predictive model, so that it becomes a variable. So your LLMs is just you using that as part of summarizing information, and it can become one or two variables within your predictive model. So I think specifically in the statistics environment, that is where the use of LLM specific would be very important. Yes, and then of course some of the programs now also have a type of a co-pilot where it interprets the results. And I think we as statisticians would have to be cautious to make sure that these interpretations are correct and that they are not just hallucinations of the AI products. So that is, and in order to know if something is correct, you have to know what it needs to be. So that is important. And maybe that we can also incorporate in our teaching at some point, maybe create some co-pilot type of thing, but giving the students the wrong answers, and then they have to actually see whether it is correct and how it should be corrected. But yeah, it's just a field that is evolving very quickly, and important for us as academics to know what's going on and how we can use it, because we also have to use it effectively.
Yeah, so I really want to touch also on the teaching part. I know this is already an old debate about, people make this analogy about, it's like when the calculator came out. Should students use the calculator, or should they do math without the calculator? But I think this is different. To your opinion on, for example, students, so my advice to my students, for example, and I also build it into my module framework for one of my modules, is that I have a section on AI, and I advise them to use it because I don't want my students to be left behind. Touching again upon the, there's a possible increase in unemployment rate with new graduates, because quite a few people have said that it's not AI that's going to take over your job. It's people working properly with AI that's going to get the position before you do. So your opinion on, or your philosophy on your teaching and AI, how does that marry each other?
Okay, what we can't ignore it. We have to incorporate it in a way into our teaching to ensure that the students are relevant and that they will get jobs. So I think that is important. We can't say don't use it, because they are using it and they will use it. And we have seen incredible improvement in student writing. So I mean, and on the one
side, except
it's,
for all the IZEs, it becomes all ISEs.
and all the Z's that we have to change to S's. But but I hope the students are learning when they are using these AI tools to improve their writing, and not doing it just as a copy and paste, because then there's no learning happening. And especially when coding, I mean, you can do wonderful coding using AI tools, but in the end, you need to learn the language. You need to know how to write the different statements. And that comes with time. And sometimes I think the students don't understand or appreciate the time it takes to actually learn a new programming language. It's like, you know, learning a new language that you use to speak. So just by copying and pasting it, it's not really going through your brain. And that is where we have to encourage students to, you can use the tool, but in the end, interrogate the answer, make sure that what you've actually found is correct. And how can you improve on the answer that you received to maybe make your program more efficient? So I think in that way, we have to incorporate it into our teaching and what we do in future.
I agree. This is, I think, an entire topic which one can really delve into. But I want to bring us to a closing, and I want to thank you so much for your time for doing this, and for me to interview you, and for, you know, the SASA community to possibly view this, hopefully. So I want to bring us to, what advice would you give? So this is typically what we ask at the end, but I think because we've discussed now these problematic, you know, with AI and this very fast engaging field, what advice would you give to younger people, statisticians, data scientists that particularly want to start in a career like this in South Africa?
Well, I think the basic thing is you have to remain curious, and you must be open to continuous learning. You will never stop learning as an analyst, a statistician, or a data scientist. The field is just evolving so rapidly. So you have to stay up to date with the new tools, the techniques, the technologies. You cannot do the work without these new technologies. So you have to build, but you have to build upon your foundations of very good statistics and programming skills. But it's important to also develop good communication skills. And I think in some cases our students lack that they need to communicate what they have done in the analytical space, and to communicate what the results are, because normally you are talking to diverse audiences and they need to understand what you have done, but then also you have to convey it in such a way that they also truthfully believe what you are telling them. So that's also important. But I also encourage young professionals to seek out mentorship. I think it's very important to have good mentors, and also collaborative opportunities. And the collaborative opportunities, I would encourage people to have local collaborative links, and as well as international, because that definitely helps, especially if you're working in the academic environment, it will be important. But then also seek collaboration with industry or communities. You can do community projects, because that is also important, where you can see how you can build relationships, and then also open doors. And you can provide invaluable support to many different projects. And I think that is the nice thing about statistics and data science, is that it's so relevant in today's world. And you must also look at the unique challenges and opportunities in South Africa. Use your skills not only to advance your own career, but also to address the local problems. And there are so many that we can think of. I mean, think about public health, and it can be in social development. There are so many opportunities. Data science has immense potential to create positive change in South Africa, and your contribution can really make a difference.
So in summary, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's very rewarding.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you just never think you know everything, because you will never know everything. It changes the whole time, and I think that's important, and it's rewarding, and it's also interesting.
Professor Renette Blignaut, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you. We are recording this in the beginning of a semester, and good luck with the upcoming semester and the rest of the year. And I'm also looking forward to seeing you at SASA. I'm not sure if you're going to SASA at the end of this year. And then to the viewers, I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah.